Welcome to the Heartbeat of Care, the show where we bring heart-centered conversations about home care, community, and connection. I am Karen, and I am super excited today to talk with Kate. She is in Western Nebraska, and she is another one of our amazing community liaisons and resource coordinators. And today we're going to spotlight what Kate does in the field, but also just some of the commonly asked questions that she gets and how she's there to help educate and bring awareness to some of the different services that Caretech can offer. So let's get things started, Kate. Talk to us about how you ended up at Caretech. Give us a little bit about your background and how you ended up here.
So I am the one that came to Caretech kind of by accident, but also no accident at all. My background involves a lot of ministry, especially children's ministry. And so caring and being kind of helpful and a part of the community is nothing new to me. So when I met with Caretech for the first time and realized how deeply invested they were in all of their communities, that was a real big selling point for me. I don't want to be part of an organization that's kind of numbers and only caring about those things. And so to realize that they're not only invested in their employees, but how much they invest in their clients and their caregivers, because there's just so many different aspects to what we do, was a huge deal for me. So Caretech has been amazing to work with, and I kind of loved every minute being here with them.
I love it. And you are definitely the definition of jack of all trades. You wear many hats out there. And Western Nebraska, our corporate headquarters is in Omaha, but actually one of our largest coverage areas is in Western Nebraska. And very shortly after you came on, you also took on not just the resource and community liaison role, which is out talking to people, working with clients and caregivers, but you also do the scheduling components of everything, which is a lot. And I think you've had an opportunity to really get involved with the caregivers and know their stories and that sort of thing. But on the client side, I know you're out talking to clients all the time, potential clients, service coordinators. What are some of the questions that you get when you're out in the field?
So when we're talking about kind of questions from people that are already with Caretech, like our clients and caregivers, I don't know that I get a ton of questions. Honestly, when I'm with them, I get a lot of stories. And so that's really kind of nice. So anytime that I get the opportunity to connect with somebody in person, it's always so sort of fascinating to hear their story. But because I'm out here and I guess you have to say I'm from Western Nebraska now because we've been here for I don't know, 17 years. So I think that makes it my home.
From them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from here. And so I have a lot of mutual connections with people, no matter where I go, whether I'm up in Chadron or, I'm down here in Scottsbluff or Kimball or whatever. And so building those mutual connections and sort of understanding each other and that kind of stuff is cool. I think some of my favorite things that I've got to experience with caregivers and clients is it's so interesting to me how many times I've, maybe matched a caregiver up with a client and they already have history together. And so, of course, I'm never going to disclose names to anyone before they're really started with anyone. And then, I'll be like, oh, and so this is the caregiver. I'm going to bring them in to meet you for the first time. Their name is Kate Schmier. Obviously, that's me. And they're like, oh my gosh, I went to high school with her daughter, or, there's these mutual connections. And it's like, it establishes this level of oh, okay, I can kind of take a deep breath now that it's not a total stranger and things like that. And so that's really kind of been some of the funnest things to experience in dealing with clients and caregivers around here.
I love that. Yeah, you've talked about it. It's such a small world. I mean, all the communities are small, but I think that's the interesting thing about Nebraska too, is it really is just a big, small town, everybody knows everyone. But yeah, you've definitely built trust. So you were at the spring fair, yesterday, or the day before, or last week or something?
It was Saturday. I don't even know what today is. Okay. It was the KNEB. I think they technically call it the Home and Garden Show. I keep calling it the Spring Show.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. The Home and Garden Show. So So people come up and they're like, Kate, what does Caretech do? Can you help my dad? What's your response?
So my response always kind of starts with understanding who their dad is and what he needs. Because honestly, CareTech, we can provide such a huge range of services for different people, but a lot of times the services that they're needing are not through CareTech. They're not things that we could really do. But luckily, I have a lot of connections in the community and stuff. So even if it's not something that we can do, a lot of times I can point them in a better direction. So it's not always about getting somebody on with care tech. It's about helping the person. I got a phone call yesterday from a gal that said, "Hey, I met you at the spring show the other day, and I wanted to talk to you. Can you give me a ride to the doctor's today?" And I was like, "Well, hold on, let's, back up a couple of steps and stuff." Because she didn't really get what CareTech was, but she had a friend who's a CareTech client. And he said, "Oh, just call Kate. She'll get somebody in your home and get you services," not, thinking about all of the other things that happened behind it and stuff. So could I give her a ride that day? No, but I can point her to the resources in order to get that ride to get her to the doctor.
Yeah.
And so that kind of stuff is really nice. And that's a lot of the things that I get right off the bat when I'm meeting somebody anywhere, is talking to them about, well, what do they need?
Mhm.
And then, their question to me is always, how much is this going to cost? Which is a question that we all have when we're doing anything.
Right.
And so, talking them through the different funding mechanisms that we can use. And, my personal goal is always going to be whatever their family situation is, I want to be able to provide the care to them at little to no cost. And that's actually a lot easier to do than people tend to realize, because even if they're not on Medicaid, there's other programs and grants and things out there that we can help them get signed up for. We have all of these different applications and connections and resources that we can send out to them to, get them connected with these different things. Of course, we're always going to take things like the private pay, but let's look at your other options first. Let's see what dad's level of care is. And then we can kind of start building from there. Like I said, it doesn't always end with CareTech giving these people services. Sometimes they need a higher level of service than we can provide, and sometimes they really don't need any services at all. They're just unsure about what it's going to hold. And so a lot of people talk to me about the future.
Yeah.
I think in the next 5 years, my dad's going to need this. I need to know what's out there. And that's great. We should all be collecting information for the things that we may or may not need in the future.
Oh, totally. Well, okay. So two things out of that. First of all, our new tagline needs to be just call Kate. And two,
Karen, you know my tagline that I love. I won't use it on here.
out for podcasts. Just call Kate. And you make a really good point about resources because, we've said this before, but it's not about, making sure that the client becomes a client of CareTech. It's about figuring out what their unique circumstances are and what resources will best help them. And we've developed so many partners from United Way and 211 and, other local nonprofits and therapy centers and resource centers and community centers that, do have the resources that are available. And that's part of, I think, the heart of truly what we do is just making sure that people are aware of what's out there for them. So that's awesome. So what about we just talked before this 6 months you've been with CareTech, which is just time flies when you're having fun.
That's right.
Over those 6 months, what has been like one of your favorite client stories?
This is such a hard question because I've had the opportunity to meet with so many different clients and caregivers, and there's just so many great stories out there. It's hard to kind of narrow one down that's like my absolute favorite. But I love the ones that just, they truly invite me into their home and they just tell me things. I have a client in my mind right now who just brings a smile to my face every time, and I've had the opportunity to meet with them several times. But just such a genuinely nice guy who, him and his wife are, they're just nice. I don't even know that there's a better word for them. But every time I come into their home, they are always showing me kind of the items around their home. And so, it's this one and this one and this one. And they tell me what they mean to them. Why do they have these items in their home? It's always totally unprompted,
Yeah.
but they're just special things to them. And it helps you to know that person so much differently, to sort of see their world a little bit different and stuff. And so those ones, I always feel such a connection to them when they're willing to just, tell me about them, because sometimes it's hard to talk about ourselves and
Like, yeah.
they just love to do it.
There are so many stories in the home. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what just sort of in, last portion of this, what else do people need to know if they're out in oh, we haven't talked about this. Wyoming. So you got some new news. Tell us about Wyoming.
Yeah, so I've been actively working with the state of Wyoming, with case managers in Wyoming, with senior centers in Wyoming. And yeah, Caretech is absolutely getting off the ground, getting things started in Wyoming. We have a couple of clients there now. And it's kind of a really exciting opportunity. I will always say that I'm from Wyoming and not Western Nebraska as much, but I think I've lived in both places the equal amount now, which is crazy. But so I'm a Laramie, Wyoming native, so absolutely go Pokes. Uh, but Wyoming is so kind of cool and different. It's very similar to Western Nebraska in terms of it's very rural, so we're very spread out, all of those things. Uh, but it's also so very much different. And so we're excited to get going in Wyoming. We're excited. They're going to be doing a senior fair in Lusk on, I believe it's June 20th. It's going to be at the Lusk Senior Center. We're going to do a lunch beforehand, and then they have a senior fair afterwards. And there's a couple of those that are coming up. So those are going to be great opportunities to kind of meet those communities and stuff. And very similar to what I get to experience in Nebraska when meeting with people in Wyoming is I have a lot of shared connections with them. I met with a gal a couple of days ago, and she is looking for services for her dad. But she is one of the nurses at my rheumatologist's office in Cheyenne.
Yeah.
And so again, like small oral connections everywhere and stuff. And so those kind of things, they're just nice. That just makes the job kind of fun to have shared connections instead of strangers.
Yeah, that's so fun. I love that you're from Wyoming too. And there was just such a need. I mean, we've talked about this, but there's a huge need Western Nebraska and into eastern Wyoming. So we're definitely excited to kick things off out there and help as many people as we possibly can. So congratulations to you on expanding your area. And I'm sure we'll see lots more Kate out there. So just call Kate if you need anything, Kate, Western Nebraska or eastern Iowa or eastern Wyoming. And Kate, what is your direct number if people do want to just call Kate?
Sure. It's 308-562-5545. And make sure that you guys are looking around because I'm out in my cute little Caretech car all the time. I got my QR codes and my phone number on it. And it's been a great thing to have out here. Lots of people recognize it. So once you see it, you'll know.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kate. This has been awesome. I always love to hear what you're doing out there, and I'm super excited about what we're going to do in Wyoming. Thanks to everybody who is listening today. Everybody that is listening is behind everything that we do. You truly are the heart of care. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other.